Welcome to Press TV's News Review, where we look deeper into some of the top stories of the day. Stick around. Welcome to Press TV's News Review. In this edition, we focus on the Korean Peninsula. Leaders of the United States and North Korea are set to hold their second summit in mere hours in Vietnam. The White House says that Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un will have a one-on-one conversation. They're also scheduled to hold a series of back-and-forth meetings on Thursday. The previous meeting between Kim and Trump was held last June in Singapore. However, the summit ended with a vague statement promising to work towards complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. Since then, both sides disagreed on numerous issues. Washington insisted on complete denuclearization, while Pyongyang pledged to keep its nuclear arsenal as long as U.S. sanctions remain in place. Well, joining us now for this segment of the program, we've got Jennifer Chang, our correspondent, who's joining us from Seoul, and also publisher and editor of Politics First, Mr. Marcus Papadopoulos, who's with us from the British capital, London. Welcome to the program. Let's start off with our correspondent Jennifer in Seoul. Jennifer, what are the expectations for the Vietnam meeting?
Well, the U.S. team is in disarray right now. They are contradicting previous things they said after the Singapore summit 8 months ago. They were insisting that the North completely denuclearized before any sanctions were lifted. But now the U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said just a few days ago that while core economic sanctions that allow the North Koreans to alleviate their poverty remain in place, some other sanctions could be lifted, suggesting that perhaps the easier sanctions consisting of inter-Korean economic cooperation projects, for instance, and humanitarian aid by South Korea to North Korea could be eased. Now, the core issue is whether the North will agree to dismantle or freeze its Jong-un nuclear complex, which is the heart, the crown jewel of its nuclear program. If it does that, that is considered to be a major step toward completely denuclearizing in an irreversible way. And that means that they will be freezing any further production of nuclear material. They have produced enough nuclear material at that plant to make about 7 more nuclear bombs. And so this would be a step that the Trump administration might reciprocate in Hanoi with an end-of-war declaration, formally declaring the Korean War over and setting the stage for future peace negotiations to reach a permanent peace treaty, replacing the temporary armistice that ended the Korean War. There are speculations that multilateral negotiations might also be kicked off in the summit, which is supposed to end with a Hanoi declaration. We can look for whether those multilateral negotiations are there, whether the end-of-war declaration is there, whether the Jong-un nuclear complex, the promise to dismantle or freeze it, will be there. That includes all plutonium processing, reprocessing capability of the North, in addition to uranium enrichment capability. Now, there are supposed to be some other secret locations not disclosed yet by the North, but the North has quietly agreed to allow international inspectors into the North at some point. One of the things that the U.S. president will be looking for at this summit will be for a timeline, a more specific timeline as to whether those U.S. and international inspectors can enter the North soon enough to please the U.S. president's opponents at home. They're growing. His political opponents, the Democrats, are now about to stage an investigation by Special Counsel Mueller, with Trump's former lawyer Michael Cohen testifying and threatening to permanently destroy the U.S. president, who is going to be staying up all night tonight in Hanoi after his first meeting with Kim Jong-un.
Let's bring in Mr. Papadopoulos from London. What are your expectations for the Vietnam summit? Are we looking at a viable path for denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula, or is this just going to be another one of those agreements that the United States will ultimately renege on?
Well, first of all, let me say I wholeheartedly support the scheduled meeting between Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un. Such a meeting can only yield positive results, not just for America and North Korea and the wider region, but also for peace and mankind. And I would like to see such meetings replicated around the world. The only way we can achieve peace is through dialogue, is through communication. And we mustn't have unrealistic expectations of tangible results from this scheduled meeting, because given the historic enmity between America and North Korea, these meetings are going to have to go on for a very long period of time in order for the day to come when a breakthrough is achieved. That said, however, there is an Achilles heel to these meetings, and that Achilles heel is the fact that America has never militarily attacked a country which has nuclear weapons. America has never directly interfered in the internal affairs of a country with the objective of overthrowing the government of that country, which has nuclear weapons. So if we have a look at Libya, the Americans managed to persuade Muammar Gaddafi to give up Libya's nuclear weapons program. And what happened? The Americans and the British and the French militarily intervened in Libya. They destroyed the Libyan state. They turned Libya into a failed state. And of course, they assassinated Muammar Gaddafi. If we have a look at Venezuela, the Americans are, according to some sources, on the brink of launching a military campaign of some sort against Venezuela. And as the world knows, Venezuela does not have nuclear weapons. So what does that mean for North Korean government? Well, it means that America can never be trusted, and that North Korea's nuclear weapons are the ultimate guarantee of North Korea's independence and sovereignty, and the ultimate guarantee that America will not militarily attack North Korea. So in short, there is no reason for why North Korea should give up its nuclear weapons, given the behavior of America on the international stage.
And what about the issue of peace on the Korean Peninsula? Will that come at the behest of these negotiations?
Well, that will depend on what the Americans have to offer to North Korea. I think that these talks are going to be very, very prolonged. And as I said, no tangible results are going to occur after this meeting, or indeed after the next scheduled meetings, if there are to be further meetings. But in terms of peace, well, that will also depend on South Korea as well. So I think once again we are at a very early stage. I sincerely hope that there can be a breakthrough. I sincerely hope that that peace can return to the Korean Peninsula. But my overriding fear is how America behaves towards other countries which don't have nuclear weapons.
All right, thanks a lot, publisher and editor of Politics First, Marcus Papadopoulos, joining us from London, and also thanks to our very own Jennifer Chang, joining us from Seoul. And with that, it brings us to an end here on this edition of Press TV's News Review. But stay tuned, there's plenty more news to come. Bye for now.